This is the Nomadic Traveler Podcast. Welcome to Nomadic Traveler Podcast. I am your host, Jason, and our lovely and wonderful co-host is here as always, Miss Nicole.
Hey guys, what's up? Oh, what's happening?
I was trying to stretch your name out.
Nicole.
All right, what do we got coming up today?
Miss Kim
Wilkins from The Abundant Traveler is here.
Yes.
She is so awesome. She's got awesome videos online. She is extremely knowledgeable on overseas travel. And she's going to help us out and kind of give us pointers and tips for when you are ready to get going after COVID and you're just like, I got to get out of the country. I got to get some travel in. Yeah. We're going to have all the tips for you in this episode of what you need to do so you can be prepared to take that big trip.
She has tips on tips on tips.
Tips on tips.
Abundantly.
Abundant?
No, there's a lot of things that she tells us in this episode that I never thought of, and I'm excited to use. I think you guys will love it.
There's, tons of goodies.
Yeah, you'll love it.
You will love it.
If you don't, I'm sorry.
If you don't, send Nicole an email at Nicole at...
And I'll send you a Corona hug.
I'll send you a cough in the mail.
Just kidding.
Okay, guys. Without further ado, we bring you Miss Kim. All right, guys, we'd like to welcome Kim Wilkin from The Abundant Traveler to the show today. How you doing, Kim?
I'm great. How about y'all? Thanks so much for having me on the show.
We are doing wonderful.
We're doing really good. How has your week been?
My week has been phenomenal. I just got back from the San Juan Islands in Washington State. It was the first flight I've taken since COVID started.
Very nice. So how was that? Was it scary?
I was a little nervous, but actually all the protocols are set in place. It was very easy. The plane was not full. They gave me plenty of space. There was hand sanitizer everywhere, and everybody was respectful and wearing a mask. So it was quite easy, and it makes me want to go out again immediately.
Are they intentionally not filling the plane, or is it just because they don't have that many takers right now?
I was on Alaskan Airlines, and they are intentionally not filling the middle seat, but the plane was not full. So I think it's a combination of both.
Okay. So I wonder if they're all going to keep doing that for a while.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to.
Yeah.
The middle seat anyway.
Yeah.
Are they still serving food on the plane?
No food. You have to buy your food prior to getting on the plane. And at the airport, I would say maybe a third of the restaurants and bars are open. And I went to 3 lounges before I found one that was actually open.
Wow.
Okay. So be prepared with your food.
Bring food, yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the grocery store first.
Yes, for sure. Awesome.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us a little bit about just how you got started traveling and kind of why you travel and how you're into it.
When I was very, very young, my dad's boss and his wife had traveled the world, and they had photos from all over the world. And I think I was hooked back when I was about 7. My first real trip overseas was when I studied abroad in college in the south of France. And I spent an entire summer in the French Riviera in Nice, and I was hooked.
That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I need to do that.
Yeah, it sounds really ambitious to be like, all right, I'm starting college and I'm moving overseas. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That summer was just a taste of what it would be like to live overseas. I came back to the U.S. after that summer, and instead of getting an investment banking job on Wall Street, which is what I studied to do, I ended up with $300 in my pocket and a one-way plane ticket, and I moved to London. I told my parents I was going to be gone 6 months, and I was gone 5.5 years. I lived in Europe for 5.5 years instead of getting a real job after college.
So I bet mom and dad were super happy about that.
They were not happy at all. They got what they raised, right?
That's right.
They raised me to do crazy things like that. So I did, and they got to come visit. So that all worked out for everyone.
What do they say? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
That's right.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But they were not travelers growing up. So I was a big traveler, and I've sort of drawn them into more exotic travel. But
So, so we're going to try to kind of focus this around, Kim has a couple of videos online. So we're going to try to focus around kind of how do you get ready for your next trip? What do you need? What are the tips? And Kim has a bunch of amazing tips. So we're going to kind of focus around that. So what is the most important tip for getting ready for a trip overseas?
the most important tip, first and foremost, is to buy the plane ticket. Don't not buy the plane ticket. Just buy it and do it. As far as a tip when you're getting prepared, I think it's really, really important to take photos of your credit cards, both the front and the back, and take a photo of your passport and email it to you. That way, if you lose your passport or lose your credit cards, you have the phone numbers, the card numbers, the dates, and everything that you need for your credit cards. And when you're going to the embassy to get a new passport, if you've lost your passport, you can at least present the embassy with your previous passport.
That is an excellent tip. That's a good tip for everyday life. I don't think I have pictures of my credit cards now.
Yeah.
Such a good idea. I just found out that on Apple, in the notes section, you can actually scan items now. So you just take a picture of it in the notes section, and it looks like a scanned document, and you can save it to your phone like that.
That's a perfect idea.
Yeah, that's genius.
Which is perfect for real estate professionals as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it
if
is.
you're interested in that.
But you also want to email yourself a copy as well, because, for example, if your phone dies or breaks, you need to be able to access those numbers and those images outside of your phone.
Yes.
Good idea. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's a new version of the paper copy. Email it to yourself.
Yes, for sure. Genius.
Genius.
So once you
Learn the hard way, y'all.
I bet.
So once you've like done that, you're already at your new country, you bought that flight. What is like the best way to exchange your money when you get there?
Typically, I think that exchanging money is really easy with an ATM. I make sure to call all of my credit card companies and let them know that I'm going to be traveling overseas and put a travel alert on them. And then I use ATMs. Typically, ATMs have no foreign transaction fees. They have the best rates, and I can get the cash that I need. I usually also carry about $200 in American money in smaller bills, nothing bigger than a 20. Because most of the world, if you're in a pinch, you can use a US dollar to get something or somewhere. But I really like ATMs. I don't use machines. I don't use, I don't bring, what are they called? Traveler's checks anymore.
Traveler's checks, right? Yeah. I didn't even know if they still had those.
Yeah, and I don't get money at a bank prior to going because the exchange rates are so terrible here in the U.S. for foreign currencies.
Okay. That's good to know.
I know a lot of bank machines now, even if they charge you like that little fee, some banks will give you that fee back. So say they charge you like $3.50 to use the bank machine. Sometimes they will even give you that fee back. So it might get your exchange for free.
If you're going to be traveling, extended travel or a long trip, you can go find, I think Charles Schwab has a bank account that has no fees whatsoever. And I think that maybe Capital One does. Don't quote me on this, but I think those are a couple that are really, really inexpensive if you're going to be using an ATM on a regular basis.
Nice.
Which is super helpful because $5 here and $5 there and $5 there in fees will eat you up.
Have you ever been to Cuba?
No, but I want to go to Cuba.
Well, we had a friend that went to Cuba, and she said that she always uses taxi drivers to do exchanges on money. But I don't think you can use your ATM card, though.
I don't think so in Cuba. I listened to that podcast that y'all
Did
did.
you?
It was a great podcast. It makes me want to go to Cuba. But I don't think, I think that I don't think there are ATMs in Cuba. And I think that you do have to exchange with people, not just, banks.
Okay.
Also with exchanging, always use an ATM that is at a bank.
Okay.
Okay.
Because using ATMs on the street that are sometimes not safe and they can skim your number. So make sure you're always going to a bank. It's usually an enclosed little room, and there's cameras, and it's much less likely to get skimmed, because that's terrible if you are in Mexico and all of a sudden in Nepal, your credit card is being used.
Right.
You're like, dang, I didn't even get to go there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So speaking of like taxi cab drivers, do you use taxi cabs or do you use public transportation? So when you first get to a place, you've got your money, what's next?
So in general, I love public transportation because you end up chatting with someone that is local.
That's what I was thinking.
Tips and tricks and hacks about where you're going and what you're doing. But when I leave the airport, I always take an Uber or a taxi. I have my luggage. It's typically I've never been to that country before or that city. I just want to get in a taxi and get to where I'm going, drop all my stuff. And then as soon as everything's dropped, then I can wander around and figure out the systems. It's really, really stressful when you land in a place for the first time. You don't know where you're going, what you're doing. Just Uber it.
It's never fun if you're lugging all your luggage around with you either.
No, it's not. No.
Yes.
No.
So what do you do like with your cell phone? Does your cell phone work there, or how do you get around that?
So I use AT&T, and I believe Verizon is the same. They have a international rate. So I have an unlocked phone that I could change out the SIM card. So I could go, say, to France for a month, and I could buy a French SIM card and plug in that SIM card, but it would be a French phone number. And I could transfer my phone calls via Google Fi or something like that. But if I'm going for a short time, I just use the international plan with AT&T, and it's $10 a day for as many phone calls, texting, and internet that I want to use. And you want to make sure that you have data and internet when you're traveling overseas. We're all used to using Waze and Google Maps. Mm-hmm. If you try to go to a new place and you don't have your Waze or Google Maps, you're going to have trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
trying to get around. So
you have to ensure they give you data as well then.
Yes. Data is extremely important. And don't get the smallest data plan either, because you'll use it up the first day on Google Maps.
Yeah. I've learned that the hard way too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Google Maps is my favorite.
Totally.
So yeah, we've heard about like a TSA like pre-check. Do you know anything about that and what that costs?
So I have what is called global entry instead of TSA pre-check. It is an upgrade from TSA pre-check. I think that TSA is around $85 right now, and they have opened it back up. It was closed for a couple of months because of COVID.
Okay.
But TSA will let you fly domestically and get in the fast lane. You don't have to take off your shoes. You don't have to empty your computer when you're going through security. And the advantage to global entry is you get TSA pre-check plus entry into the U.S. You get to go into the fast line. You are going to a kiosk to do your customs forms, and it is lickety split. I would say with global entry and TSA, I save 30 to 45 minutes each direction for every single flight I take. It's well worth the $85 for TSA, but I think it's $110 or so. $120 for global entry. So worth it.
That's a pretty sizable amount of time.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Significant.
That's well worth it.
Each direction. And during, the current situation we have now, you're not standing in line with a bunch of people.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things are changing, y'all.
For sure.
For sure.
If you're going overseas, like what kind of medical things do you need to kind of get? I know different countries have different regulations, but in general, would you just kind of go to your doctor and ask them tell them where you're going? Is that kind of what you do, or?
I usually check online first. I feel that online has better information than my local doctor because my local doctor is not a traveler. But typically, most of the places I've traveled throughout the world, unless I was going to Africa or Asia, I really didn't need extra vaccines or anything like that. I do always have travel insurance and medical insurance just in case something happens.
So you buy separate medical insurance. So your current coverage does not cover you outside of the U.S.
No, my understanding is most U.S. medical health insurance companies do not cover you outside the U.S.
Okay.
And what I use is a typical travel insurance like World Nomads, which has some medical benefits, but I also use MedJet, which will fly you out of a situation if you're sick, or they will help you if there is a natural disaster or a military disaster or something like that in a foreign country. It's an additional fee, and I believe it's around $500-ish a year, but it's worth it. And especially, with what's happening in the world, you just don't know. And it's great to be medevaced out if you need to be. And most travel insurance don't have that additional, we'll pick you up anywhere in an airplane and get you out of there.
So MedJet is yearly. World Nomads is yearly as well?
You can't, most regular travel insurance, you can get a yearly policy.
Okay.
Or you can get a by trip policy. Though the yearly policy does have limitations. So if you're traveling on a yearly policy, but you've used up the maximum amount of benefit, you're going to have to buy supplemental insurance.
Okay.
Just like regular insurance. I believe what I had last year. So last year I traveled 43,000 long haul miles in 14 countries.
Wow.
And the plan I bought was a year plan, but if I had a claim more than $10,000, then once I maxed that out, I was going to have to buy additional insurance to have additional coverage.
Have you filed claims before?
I have but the last time I filed a claim, I was probably 26.
Okay, so it's been a little while.
Wow.
Yeah. Luckily, every once in a while I'll lose a pair of sunglasses, but in my travels, I've been extremely lucky. And it's as long as you have your wits about you, you're paying attention to who's around you, you're not walking down a dark alley by yourself at night, and you act like you know where you're going and what you're doing, things are pretty safe.
Okay.
So
you just walk around acting like you own the joint?
Yep, that's what I do. Yep.
That's a good one. I like that.
And then if being female and traveling is more challenging than being male and traveling because you are more of a target. But I have felt uncomfortable 2 or 3 times over the years, and all you do is just pop in to the nearest store, whatever it is. It might be their version of a 7-Eleven or, just a coffee shop, and you just pop in. And you invariably, if you feel any kind of threat, you can walk up to whoever's working and say, "Hey, can you help me? There's someone outside that, that's scaring me."
Okay.
So
That's good advice.
And they'll call the police for you or something?
yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Throughout the world, calling the police is not 911. So make sure whatever country you are traveling to, that you learn what that code is for 911. It may be 311. It may be another number completely. But if you have an emergency, you want to know whatever that emergency number is.
Okay.
That's good to know.
We saw your diagram that you had. Could you send that to us and we could put that on our page?
Yeah.
In our show notes? That'd be great for everybody.
Absolutely. Sure.
Do all countries allow U.S. citizens, or do you need visas? What kind of visas do you need?
Yeah, can you just go anywhere you want?
Yeah. Probably right now.
No. We're quite limited to where we can go. Normally, holding a U.S. passport is very easy to travel throughout the world, even if we need a visa. Like I needed a visa when I was in Vietnam and when I was in Russia. and some other countries, but it's relatively easy. You can get visas most of the time here in the U.S. with there's some online like passport agencies that you can mail off your passport and send it your credit card information. They'll send your passport back with the visa already attached.
So what is the difference between a visa and a passport?
So a passport proves that you are a citizen of a particular country. It has your name, your photo, and your identification. It's like a driver's license, except it's a driver's license for traveling overseas.
Okay.
And a visa is allowing you, that person who holds that passport, to visit a particular country for a particular period of time.
Do they have different time frames, or what are the time frames usually?
Yes, the time frames are different for each country that you need a visa. For example, traveling to Europe right now, the area that is called the Schengen area, which is primarily continental Europe, you can only stay 90 days without a visa. So we all think that we can go to Europe whenever we want for as long as we want, but actually we cannot. And so if you're going to stay over 90 days, you will have to have a visa.
And is it very difficult to get a visa?
I don't know about in the Schengen area how hard it is.
Okay.
I do know that you can get residency visas for certain countries, but that's a little more involved. You have to have international insurance, you have to have X number of dollars in the bank, and you have to have a place to stay for that time period. And I'm speaking for Italy and France and Spain because I've done a little research on those three countries.
Okay.
Very cool.
The best place to find if you need a visa and if you think you might need a visa or you're looking for a visa, go to that particular country's embassy website and it'll tell you exactly who needs a visa, how long you can stay, what you have to do, typically what it costs.
Perfect. That's exactly what we need to know then.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
The consulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lots to do beforehand.
Yes.
You want to have your ducks in a row for sure.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Speaking of that,
there are a lot of things that you can do preemptively that just make your trip much easier. For example, the copying the credit cards and having $200 in 5s and 10s. I keep that stuff in a bag that I pull the whole thing out and it just goes in my suitcase, and that way I have all of that all of the time. I don't have to think about it.
That's smart.
yeah, just save it for each trip.
Yeah.
Perfect. Speaking of that, like what are your tips, if you have any, for like packing? I know I'm a terrible packer and a lot of our listeners probably are too. So do you have any kind of good tips about that?
My favorite tip I learned from a girlfriend that I met in Morocco, and she is using, you remember those silly bands that everybody used to wear 15 years ago around their wrist? They'd wear like 15, 18 silly bands at once.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you can use those as rubber bands for rolling up your clothes. And that way, when you roll your clothes, I find rolling clothes, you can pack more and it's more efficient than folding clothes. But if you put a real rubber band around it, you're going to have those wrinkle lines of a rubber band. But those silly bands do not wrinkle your clothes. So everything's neat and tidy and organized and everything, and you know where everything is, and it doesn't unravel when you open your suitcase.
And silly bands are still readily available
on Amazon.
Sweet.
I would have never thought of trying that, but that's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah.
I wonder what the difference is and why it doesn't wrinkle.
I know they're not as thick.
I think it's because they're silicone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're really, really cheap though, so you have to bring extra. I'd say 1 out of 10 break the first time you use it.
Yeah.
You can buy a big bag though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can I buy, 200 at a time.
Yeah.
Silly band people didn't even know they had another product on their hands. Hey, you should pitch that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So as far as like other things to pack, what about like adapters and things for your phone, do you just keep a bunch of different types of them? That way you don't have to think about which one you're taking to which country, or how do you pack those?
Typically, I have a bag of all my electronics, just like I have the little bag of the $200 and photocopies of things. I keep an electronics bag, and all of my chargers stay in there for my phone and my computer and all of that. I just keep an extra set. And then as far as chargers are concerned, as far as adapters are concerned, I keep the whole set in there. And then when I leave, I pull out what I don't need and leave in there what I do need. And then when I come home, I throw them all back in there. So everything's in one place all of the time.
Smart idea.
That's good, yeah.
I love it.
It's just a waste to get somewhere and then you've got to go buy all the things you forgot. So if you just kind of keep the little bags of things ready, you always have it with you, and it makes it less stressful when you're getting ready to leave.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You just grab your bag, stick it in there, and then that's nice big check mark.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and then if last minute a friend's like, hey, you want to go on this trip? You're like, yep. Ready to go. Yeah. Let me get out my silly bands. That's awesome.
That can be packed in 5 minutes.
That's right.
Yep, that's right.
Think
about it. If all you have to do is roll up your clothes and put your clothes in the suitcase, everything else is already organized from a previous trip.
Yep.
You can go on a moment's notice.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that for sure.
Spontaneity.
Genius.
Yeah, thanks.
Speaking of traveling with friends, how do you decide whether you're going to travel alone or with friends or with a group? How do you kind of choose that?
Is it a pain to travel with a group?
I'm not a large group traveler, so I can't really vouch for that. I do travel probably 50% on my own and 50% with friends. Typically, what I will do is a combination of both. I will have 3 or 4 friends travel with me, and then I'll go do something on my own. Because I'm allowed to travel with my current career, I'm allowed to travel a little bit longer than most of my friends with a 9-to-5 job.
Okay.
Which is really, really nice. And it's nice to have a combination. We all have to be respectful of everybody's space and what everybody wants to do. And it's also important to think about how many of your friends you want to travel with based on the logistics. So, for example, if you're traveling in most countries and you want to rent a car, most countries' cars are much smaller than they are in the U.S. So you want to be conscious of how many people you're traveling with.
Yeah.
Luggage, and 2 for human beings in the car. So.
Yeah, I was thinking how many bags everybody has. You won't be able to fit them in the car.
Yeah.
If you have to get multiple Ubers and you might be waiting for one to come and then you're all waiting to get back. Yeah, that could be a lot. That could be a time waster right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I find the ideal is three friends to travel with is ideal. That fills up a car that Uber will allow you to put, 3 people. And it also, the dynamics of the friendships, these 2 people can go here today and these 2 people can go here, and then we'll meet up for dinner, and then it's a 4-top, and at a restaurant you're not trying to get a 5-top or a 6-top.
Yeah.
Good point.
It's just convenience.
Yeah. Okay, so say we want to take Nicole and put her on a plane and send her somewhere. Where should we send her?
Oh my goodness. What do you like to do, Nicole?
Send me everywhere.
What do you like to do?
I like just being outdoors. I like meeting people. I like talking. I like kayaking. I like swimming. I like the beach. I'm very outdoorsy and people oriented.
You like the idea of going to an Asian country too, don't you?
Yeah. I definitely want, never been overseas. So anything that's I kind of want to be culture shocked a little bit. I want to see some things I've never seen. I want to be weirded out a little bit.
I would suggest if you want to be weirded out, but have amazing people and really, really different, delicious food, lots of culture, and super easy and very inexpensive, I would go to Vietnam or Thailand. Southeast Asia is phenomenal. And in Thailand, the people are so kind and so sweet, and there's so much to see. You can go to the beach and go scuba diving. I did a liveaboard off of Koh Phi Phi, which is in the south, and then you can go up to the north and go hiking in the mountains in Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai.
So we've had another person that recommended Vietnam for Nicole, and then we've had another person that also recommended Thailand.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Well, I guess there's a theme going.
We're getting a strong response for that.
Vietnam is calling my name.
I did not know I would like Vietnam, and I absolutely loved it. The culture is so incredible when you see the difference from the north and the south, and the way the people are living. Even their coffee is different. You know, the Vietnamese coffee is very, very famous for being very rich and typically has condensed milk in it. But in the north, it tastes very different than it does in the south.
Interesting. We hear that they're very, very nice there. Everybody's very friendly and very nice.
Yeah.
So sweet. It's funny. I am 5'11" with blonde hair. And in Vietnam, everybody is like 5 foot even with black hair. And they will come up to me and pretend to be taking a picture of the scenery. They're actually trying to sneak a photo of me. And so what I started doing, it was so cute. I would run up to them, put my arms around them, and stand there and take a photo with them.
Yeah.
And before there'd be a crowd. Like, can I have my picture with you? Can I have my? It was just fun. It made it lighthearted and super, super fun. They're so sweet.
That's fun.
So you're like a Vietnam celebrity.
Right?
Yeah. Randomly. I think every tall blonde is a celebrity, you know.
That's so cool. I love it.
Everybody's running around with pictures of her.
I was thinking about that. Yeah. How many homes are you in? Framed on the wall. I love it.
So funny.
Very cool. So if I go to Vietnam and like maybe I'm on a budget and there's something that I really want to do, but it might be a little bit above my budget, what do you suggest? Do you think I should just do it or like wait to come back? Because I've been in that situation many times.
I say do everything that you want to do while you're there. Don't overbook yourself, but do everything you want. You don't know if you'll ever make it back, and you don't want to have any regrets.
For sure.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I was thinking too. Just do it. So
Just do it. And additionally, in addition to the activities, it's worth getting up early and staying up late to get all the activities done and do the things you want to do. It's also important to buy those silly trinkets and tchotchkes that you're like, I don't know, should I buy that? Should I not? Go ahead and buy it. You never know. You might get home and really wish you had purchased that $2 I don't know what.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
True. Especially like with COVID right now, I've been thinking about what if they never open travel like fully like it was before? What if it's always going to be this way now? And why didn't I go on many trips before this overseas?
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to waste any more time now.
Yeah. Seize the opportunity we have. I had to wrap my brain around with COVID. I don't travel domestically very much. I travel internationally most of the time. So wrapping my head around all the domestic travel, it was a gear shift. And now I've just gotten back from the San Juan Islands, which I had never heard of before. I'm going to drive the Pacific Coast Highway this summer. I think I'm going to spend a couple of weeks in Hawaii, just doing things that are available to me. I'm going to go to Marfa in the fall when the weather's better. So
I want to do Hawaii.
Yeah.
yeah, me too.
Same.
That sounds amazing.
I know.
Which part? Which island do you want to go to?
I think I'll fly into Honolulu
Okay.
and then go to Kauai and then down to Maui, maybe the Big Island if there's time, but fly out of Maui.
Yeah, I watched a thing on Kauai the other day, and I'm like hooked on Kauai.
Yeah. I mean, each island everywhere in the world, when it's a series of islands, they're completely different.
Yeah.
So I always try and island hop.
Well, they said Kauai was the least inhabited, so it's the least developed. So I feel like it's going to be the most natural and unspoiled.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nicole's there. Hostel, Airbnb, hotel. What do you recommend?
I recommend a combination of all three.
Okay.
If you're willing to stay in a hostel, there are actually some really nice hostels these days. Just get a private room with a private bath. and stay away from the party hostels. But it's still okay to stay in a hostel. I don't stay very often, but I still do. And I do that more when I'm traveling by myself. Typically, a hostel will have a kitchen. If I'm by myself and want to meet other people, then a hostel is a good way to stay. Or the second, if I'm traveling by myself, I will stay in a hotel. And if I'm going more high end, definitely with a concierge, or a hotel with a big lobby, or a hotel with a bar. Because again, if you're by yourself, you have the opportunity to meet people sitting in the lobby, sitting in the restaurant, sitting in the bar. And if you have a concierge, they definitely will help you. If I'm traveling by myself, I typically don't stay in an Airbnb because I have nobody to ask and nobody to talk to.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, when I am traveling with friends, I typically won't stay in a hostel because I have friends. And I will typically stay in an Airbnb because we are our own fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yes. Makes sense.
yeah. Most of the time I stay in hotels at this point, but I stay in a variety of hotels. I'll stay in mom and pop, off the beaten path, and then I'll go stay somewhere nice. And then sometimes I still camp as well. But after I'm done camping, I want to go stay somewhere really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes sense.
Mix it up.
Yeah. What are like some of the excursions that you book before you go, or some of the like little activities that you book?
The most important, again, I don't suggest overbooking your trip, but as soon as I arrive in a foreign country, especially on a different time zone than we are, the first thing I book is a food tour that first night. That food tour will keep you up on purpose so you can get over your jet lag and go to sleep at the correct time. But also a food tour, you'll have a guide that first night that you can ask all your questions, and you're going to meet a bunch of people, and you're going to meet a bunch of people over food and typically alcohol. So as a result,
Yeah.
super social.
So is the food tour offered by a hotel, or do you find an outside excursion company? Where do you find that?
Typically I go to Viator or Eat With or With Locals. Those are 3 different websites. And that's where I like to find food tours. Or you can just Google best food tour in, say you're going to San Miguel de Allende. Best food tours in San Miguel. And sometimes I'll do a couple of food tours, especially if I'm traveling by myself. It's more fun to go on a food tour than it is to sit in a restaurant by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I will say, I have to attest to that because when we went to Disney, we did what was it called?
Dine in the Sky.
Dine in the Sky, and we met people that we still talk with now
Yeah.
and hang out with now, and they were just sitting at our table with us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was people that we probably would have never met otherwise.
Yeah.
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 And the food was freaking amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
It's that community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it at home, we all get together over food and wine. It's the same process. All the travelers are getting together over food and wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good idea. See, I would have never thought about that, but I definitely love food. So,
What do they say? A meeting without eating is cheating.
I like that.
that's a good
I
one.
love it. Very cool. What about like picture taking? How do you do that, especially if you're on a solo trip? Do you say you do like a lot of selfies or ask people?
Selfie stick.
Selfie sticks.
Well, I carry a really lightweight collapsible tripod with me these days. And I have one of those little clickers, and I just take my phone. I have an iPhone 11, and I would say the photo quality is good enough for everything that I need, and I'm not carrying around a gigantic camera. One, for the weight, and also when you have a big camera, you're at risk of getting robbed, as well as people don't want their picture taken. And when you're carrying this gigantic camera, they don't want a gigantic camera in their face. And also, if you're going to ask someone to take a photo of you, they don't know how to work the big camera, but everybody knows how to work a phone.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's a good one.
Good tip. I like that.
Yeah. And my collapsible tripod, I bought it on Amazon, and it was probably $30 maybe. And it's great. It weighs about 1.5 pounds and it's with me all the time. I can use it as a selfie stick and it will expand up to 5 feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, see, I've been thinking about getting one of those. So how does it attach to the phone? Does it just grab it or?
Yeah, it just grabs it.
Okay, so it's like a grip one. Okay.
And then did it come with the remote? Or you bought that
No,
separately?
I bought the remote separately.
Okay, cool.
And I also have a stabilizer. Since I do YouTube videos, I have a stabilizer that it's a DJI, the Osmo Gimbal 2.
Yep.
And I use that all the time to film.
Nice.
Okay.
So those are the two primary things, that collapsible tripod and then the stabilizer. And I can basically do everything I need to do with those two attachments.
So your remote that you get works with like an app?
Yep, it is an app. It's a Bluetooth remote.
Nice.
Sorry, the third thing. Yep.
I need to get one of those.
Yeah. I will have to say, I do miss when we had the disposable cameras and you had no idea what your photos were going to be like. And you came back and there were like 17 photos of like your shoes or whatever. I miss those days. It was always such a surprise.
I love the surprise, but I remember I was in Spain at a bullfight in Sevilla. And at the time, I was 22, had no money, and I paid for the most expensive tickets in the shade to be able to get amazing photos. And the whole roll of film didn't come out.
Oh, gosh.
So I don't miss those days anymore.
It was a sore subject.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't miss that at all, actually. I like knowing what it looks like. I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe just don't look at your pictures till you get home.
You don't miss the surprise?
Not really, no.
No, it'd be fun to take a disposable camera.
Yeah, like
still,
to have
day.
both.
It'd be fun.
Maybe both, yeah.
To like take your pictures that you know, but then also just take... Have you ever been to like a wedding where they have the disposables on the table?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I love it.
I was just thinking I like knowing if it came out, because if it didn't, you can
wanna
always take another one.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I get it.
So
That is a good idea, too.
I don't know, that's one thing I like about technology.
You like the reliability.
Right.
I agree. Yeah, so what about like... The other thing I was thinking about was like tipping and customs that are like customary to the area. How can people kind of learn about those?
Yeah, do you tip everywhere?
I would say most westernized countries you tip in some way, shape, or form. The best practice is to Google tipping customs for any country that you're going to. I also suggest not only tipping, but learning the words please and thank you. It makes a world of difference if you can at least say please and thank you in that language.
Yeah. And restroom.
Yeah.
Maybe.
and Uber.
And Uber.
Wait, is Uber the same?
It's the same.
Okay. How's that going to
It's
say?
the same.
Uber. You just got to say it with the accent.
Add a little accent to it, right?
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what about like when you get all those knickknacks that you said, like, don't leave them because you might want them. How do you store those when you're coming back? What do you do with those?
Do they all fit in your suitcase?
I always bring a duffel bag with me, and I bought the duffel bag at Academy, and it rolls out to probably 3 feet long, 2.5 feet, 3 feet long, as round as a nice sized duffel bag. And what we do when we travel, all my friends travel together, we put everything we buy in that duffel bag, and then we pay for one extra piece of luggage on the way home in the airplane.
That's a great idea.
So I'll share it.
So,
That's such a good idea.
Yeah. I brought a 70-pound bronze Ganesh back, which is a Hindu god from Cambodia. And my duffel bag is now nicknamed the Little Man because I put a little man in my duffel bag when I'm from Cambodia. But
hey, that's a good souvenir, little man.
A little man?
My 70-pound little man.
So where do we get one of those?
And made it home. They didn't confiscate it. So
that's awesome.
And didn't get damaged at all?
Nope. He's great. He's at my front door where he's supposed to be.
That's awesome.
I love
Just
that.
don't bring food back from a foreign country.
Yeah, you're not supposed to bring any food or plants or anything like that, right?
No. So that'll get you in trouble.
Okay. Final tips and tricks that we haven't talked about. Is there anything that you can think of that we haven't remembered to ask you?
I would say go and do it. You're going to make mistakes, but the best thing you can do is go and do it. I just got back from the San Juans last night, and for example, making mistakes. We got to our hotel on Tuesday night and realized our reservation was on Wednesday night, and we had no place to stay that night. It was 6 p.m.
Oh, that's not a good one.
But the proprietor was very, very sweet. He said, let me call around to some of my neighbors and some friends, and we ended up with a place to stay. So, it's kind of don't sweat the small stuff, don't overbook, but definitely just go. That's the biggest thing I can say. You have permission to go. That's my favorite thing to do.
Love it.
You have the permission to live the life that you want through travel.
Just do it.
I'm
Just
ready.
do it.
We're going to steal the Nike slogan.
Just do it.
Love it. Just,
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to our segments now. So we got
Yeah.
a couple of segments we want to ask you about. Our first segment is the Don't Do That. And the Don't Do That is a travel mistake somewhere that you've made along the way that listeners could benefit from and hopefully not make themselves. So, and you can't use the one you just did.
Travel mistake is not booking enough time to go to a location.
Okay.
We in the United States don't use our entire vacation, and we don't travel enough, and we feel like we can see the entire world in 3 days. For example, going to Europe. I'm going to Europe for a week, and I'm going to see Rome, Paris, Barcelona, and London. No,
Right.
don't do that. Take as much time as possible and slow down, and maybe only see one country and 3 cities. You can make another trip. Don't miss the things that you might miss out on by running around like a chicken with your head cut off. So,
you recommend just focusing on like London and maybe one other city or something like that?
yes, I focus on a smaller area for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Take advantage of going deep instead of wide.
Yeah. What? No. Nicole was mouthing something to me. I didn't know what was happening. Okay. Segment number 2 is today's hidden gem. And the hidden gem is somewhere off the beaten path that our listeners could go the next time they're in this area. And it could be anywhere.
Okay, anywhere. It's called Calacarbo in Ibiza.
How do you spell that?
Cala, which is a cove.
Okay.
Carbo, Carbo.
Okay.
And it is in Ibiza, which is an island off the coast of Barcelona in Spain.
Okay.
And it is a cove on the western side of the island. So you get these beautiful sunsets. There is one little restaurant there and no one is there. And the water is warm. It's crystal blue. You can watch the sunset going down on the horizon in between 2 cliffs.
Wow.
And nobody's there. It's phenomenal. It's the best sunset I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was traveling with 2 girlfriends, and the 3 of us were the only ones on the cove, and it was just off of high season. So it was the shoulder season, but there were plenty of people in Ibiza and nobody was there.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
You got me on that one. That sounds amazing.
I've
The
definitely pictured that.
restaurant
Yeah.
that we went to, it was one little restaurant, and they basically said you could have this fish, or this fish. It was caught off the cove this morning.
Yeah.
So we ate whole fish with a little salad, some French fries or potato or something, which is, very, very simple, and a platter of whole fish, and then went and watched the sunset and swimming. Yeah, it was perfection.
Love it.
I'm ready.
Yeah, go to Calacarbo.
I can't
Calacarbo.
say it.
Having a hard time with words today. Calacarbo.
I got it written down, so I'll be able to Google it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it. Perfect. Okay, so when people want to go and find out more about you, where do they go?
The brand is The Abundant Traveler. You can find me on YouTube, The Abundant Traveler, Instagram, and my website all is The Abundant Traveler.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we went through before we had this interview, and we watched a couple of videos you have. So there's a lot of the same type of stuff. So if you are interested in doing your own trip and you need to, maybe find something else or catch up on some other information, she's got videos that cover this in a very wonderful, beautiful way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So check it out.
They're very great. We learned a lot.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
The goal is to be of value and encourage people to go. There are a lot of people in this world, especially in their, a little bit older in their 30s, 40s, and 50s that have not traveled the world. And this is the reason I started the brand, is to encourage people and give them permission that it's okay to go, and here's tips and tricks, and just do it.
Well, that's essentially the reason why we started this podcast too, is that we're trying to show people that there is more out there. And it's kind of, we're from Indiana, and it's in the Midwest, and a lot of people, kind of in the Midwest are like, well, why would we go anywhere else? It's going to be the same as, how it is here. I'm like, no, it is not the same as how it is here. It is not the same at all.
Yeah.
It's a big, beautiful world out there.
Yes.
So much to see and do.
So I always say, if I can convince one person to go out and venture outside their hometown, I've done my job.
Absolutely. I love that.
Excellent.
One person at a time.
Yes. Well, Kim, we're going to have you back on again. So we kind of went over all the tips and tricks. We're going to have you on another show, and I think we're going to talk about specific locations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I want to hear more about Vietnam.
Yes. So,
I think a lot of listeners would too.
Yeah. So I think what we're going to do is have you back, and we'll talk specifically about some of your favorite locations, and get a little more in depth.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
But
Cannot wait.
thank you for all this information. It was really good.
Yes. Thank you
Loved
so
it.
much.
I'm so glad. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm so happy to be on y'all's podcast. I love listening to it. I love it. I binged it last week, by the way.
I love it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
So sweet.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks so much for your time.
All right,
Thank you.
We'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, guys. That was Kim Wilkin with The Abundant Traveler. She's awesome.
Yeah. Which tip was your favorite?
I like the one where you take pictures of your credit cards and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that's a good one for everyday life, and I think I'm going to do it as soon as the show's over.
Yes.
And email them to myself. The only thing I ever thought is if your email account ever got hacked, then you'd have copies of your credit cards on your email.
That's something to think
So
about.
the hacker would be like, thank you.
They're all in the same location. Yeah.
Appreciate that. That made it much easier. I didn't have to steal your identity at all.
I like the trinket idea, like bringing a whole duffel bag.
Nicole loves trinkets in general.
I don't even like trinkets.
You
I don't know
love
why I'm talking.
trinkets.
But I think if I went overseas, there's a lot of people I'd want to buy for, and I think bringing another duffel bag.
What you gonna buy me?
Nothing.
Oh, bummer.
People other than you. No, I'm just kidding.
Everybody but you.
I'll bring you back a trinket.
A trinket.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please do go check out Kim's stuff. Her videos are fantastic. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to hit us up at nomadictravelerpodcast@gmail.com. If you have friends, family, brothers, sisters, anybody you think would be great for our show, please send us a message. We always love to meet new people and talk with new guests.
Yep. Let us know if you guys have any of your own tips that you want to add to this episode.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah,
We'll post
absolutely.
them on our page.
All right. That's all we got for right now. We'll see you next week. All right, we'd like to welcome to the show Lisa Wilkin from The Abundant Traveler. How you
Pause.
doing?
Pause.
Pause.
My name's Kim.
Oh, God dang it.
That was so
Oh, my gosh. All right. Oh, jeez.